So, hello and welcome everybody to the next episode of Artifact Free, the new podcast on radiology and medical imaging. My name is Florian Schwarz. I'm also head of radiology at the Donau-Isar-Klinikum in Deggendorf in Germany. And today's episode is about the capabilities of GPT-5 for multimodal medical reasoning. And there is a new study that has just landed that might completely reshape the way we deal with AI support systems in medicine. And I'm not really exaggerating here. We're talking about a jump in AI that's so big, it makes us ask really serious and honestly kind of startling questions. And let's get right into it. So think about this for a second. Could a piece of software right now actually be better at figuring out what's wrong with you than a doctor who spent years and years at medical school? It sounds like science fiction, but the team at Emory University, who has had prior access to GPT-5, has put this to the test, and what they found is kind of mind-blowing, and it's just been published. And the or let's understand why this is such a huge deal. And as in in your daily work as radiologists, you know how insanely difficult the doctor's job is. And it's not just about book smarts or memorizing symptoms. We work as the detectives most of the time, right? So we have to listen to the stories, we have to look at weird lab numbers, we stare at fuzzy imaging exams, X-rays, CT, MRI, and somehow we have to put all of these pieces of information together to solve the puzzle. So that whole process, it has a name, and it's typically called multimodal medical reasoning. And here's the thing that's always been the absolute Achilles heel for artificial intelligence. It's because it's one thing to teach an AI to be really good at reading an X-ray or really good at analyzing lab results. But getting it to do everything all at once, to connect all these dots between the words, the numbers, the pictures, that's been the huge mountain that AI just couldn't seem to get over. And it's like having all the puzzle pieces, but no idea how they all fit together. And so this is where it gets really interesting, because the researchers got their hands on this brand new AI model, the next version of GPT, which is GPT-5, and they didn't just test it, they decided to throw it into the deep end. So we're talking about giving it some of the toughest medical exams out there, the kind of tests designed to stump even the most brilliant human doctors. And so how did they set up this epic showdown? It's like a three-way title fight. In one corner, you have the reigning champ that was GPT-4o, the previous best model. And in the second corner, you've got the human baseline, trained medical professionals, folks who were on the cusps of being licensed doctors. And in the third corner, you have GPT-5 as the new challenger. And so the bell is about to ring. And the way they tested this was kind of clever. They didn't just ask for the final answer, like on a multiple choice test. No, they asked or used a method called chain of thought. And it's basically the same thing as your math teacher who told you in high school, show me what you think, what you're thinking. So they forced the AI to explain its reasoning step by step before giving the diagnosis. And this is awesome because it lets us peek under the hood and see to what extent the software understands the clinical problem. And we can see if there is an understanding, not just the production of the final diagnosis. And so what happened? And the results, let me tell you, were not just a small step up. This was a pretty seismic shift. It's a total rethink of what we thought AI can do. And it's the first sign of that is just a comparison with how much better it was than the last version. And when you compare it with the prior version, which was GPT 4.0, you see an increase of about 1/3 in percentage points. So it's a huge step forward, a giant leap. And the question is, how well was it doing against the humans? And this is where the story gets really wild, because you see the old model GPT-4o was actually performing a bit worse than the human experts. It was still impressive for sure, but it wasn't quite there. And GPT-5, on the other hand, didn't just match the human doctors. but it left them in the dust, really. Look at that gap. It was like something like 75 over 42 or so. It's not even close. So when it came to the critical skill understanding of how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together, GPT-5 scored almost 30% higher than the trained human expert. This is the key takeaway right here. We're not just talking about an AI that can pass the test anymore. We're talking about an AI that is now setting completely new standards. So what's the final scorecard? It's pretty clear. We've just crossed a major threshold. We've gone from an AI that was trying and sometimes failing to keep up with human doctors to an AI that's now so good, at least on these specific tests, that the humans are the ones trying to catch up. This is a massive turning point, apparently. And what we see, those stats and charts can feel a little abstract. So let's get concrete and let's look at an actual case from the test, a true medical mystery where getting it right could literally be the difference between life and death. And let's see how AI performed here. And there was a 45-year-old man found unconscious. He's vomiting. His labs are all out of whack. And then a few hours later, something really scary happens. The doctors notice a crackling sound in his chest. So suprasternal crepitus. And this is one of those situations where the clock is ticking and every single decision matters. So the question put to the AI is simple, but the stakes are incredibly high. What's the next step? One wrong move here could be catastrophic. And before I show you the correct answer, what are you thinking? Any ideas?
And boom, there it is. Look at how GPT-5 reasoned through this. It connected all the dots, the intense vomiting, the patient's history, and that crucial clue, the crackling in the chest. It zeroed in on the most likely diagnosis, a life-threatening tear in the esophagus, known as Burhava syndrome, and it recommended the exact right test to confirm it. I mean, that is just flawless expert level thinking right there.
So after seeing something like that, you have to step back and ask, what does this all mean? We've looked at this course, we've seen it in action. What's the big picture for all of us, for doctors, for patients, for the future of medicine itself? And the key takeaways here are, first, this thing is a beast when it comes to complex medical puzzles. So there were massive gains in precision. Second, it's not just as good as humans anymore on these tests. It has demonstrated, and I'm quoting from the paper here, clear superhuman proficiency. And third, this might be seen as the beginning of a new era for AI-powered tools that help doctors do their jobs better. But, and this is a really big but, we need to put this into perspective. And the researchers also are the first ones to say it. This was a test, a clean, standardized exam. And as you all know from your daily work as radiologists, real life in a hospital is messy, is chaotic. There's pressure, there's a lot of incomplete information, and things just don't transfer very well into tests from real life. And so no, this AI is not about to replace us as doctors tomorrow. And the goal should rather be here to create an incredible co-pilot for doctors, a tool to support our decisions and not to make them on its own. However, this still leaves us with this huge and fascinating question. We now have scientific proof that in controlled environments, an AI can think through medical problems better than trained human experts. And the technology is moving very, very fast, and it's accelerating as we look at it, more or less. And it's not a question any longer of if this is going to change medicine anymore, but it's more a question of when and to what extent it's going to change it. So how do we use this power safely? How do we use it ethically? And the real question is, I think, are we all ready for what's coming? And I think the right attitude to look at these problems is that of cautious optimism. So we should take this technology into our hands and we should define and guide the way in which it is used in our everyday lives and in all of our hospital settings. So this concludes the most recent episode of Artifact Free, the podcast on radiology and medical imaging. My name is Florian Schwarz. Yeah, thanks for listening in, and I hope we'll see you again. I hope you'll have a great start to your upcoming week, and you are all, as radiologists, incredibly helpful to all the clinicians and patients you're working with.
So stay curious and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.